if you're at home listening or watching, welcome to you. It's going to be quite a deep session, this one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Many journeys over the last week and a bit since we recorded the last podcast.
Yeah, it's been a well, I'm just going to call it for myself. It's just been a true dark night of the soul, really. It really has. Just being absolutely stripped bare to the bottom. It's been a really, and I'm still in it deeply.
Beautiful.
And I guess, the podcast, the reason for this is, it's the beauty and it's the suffering and it's everything, and this is where, hopefully other people can resonate with where we're at.
100%. It's just the full grandiose of the human experience, right? Like bliss is any emotion fully felt.
Yeah.
And when we can allow ourselves to truly go into the depths of every emotion, it just enhances the human experience. It enhances who we are and it enhances the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've cried more tears in the last 8-9 days than I have in my entire life. It's I feel like I've just been cracked open, truly cracked open, and there's been such a deep wound that I had never been able to see, regardless of all of the plant medicine work that I've done, all of the breathwork work that I've done. It took the running away from the most special relationship I've ever had in my life with the most special woman, Rosie, and for me to finally see that wound. It's a paradox, right? Because this wound, it's a commitment wound that's been sat with me, and I've allowed that to infect me over and over again, especially this time. So the paradox is this relationship that was so solid and stable, I allowed this commitment wound to infect me over the course of about 2 or 3 months until it literally pushed it away and ended the relationship then, and it still took me 6 weeks, 8 weeks for that wound to really open up.
To realize you broke your own heart.
I broke my own heart. I broke both our hearts, and so because the love is there between us, and it's actual love. It's the first time I've really felt love in my life, and so I'm trying to rectify that with her. I'm deeply in it, and I'm rectifying the rebuilding of me. Like, my identity has just been stripped away, because this deep core commitment wound. It's like when we did our rebirthing course, and one of those, I think it might have been month 6 or month 7, and we had to stand up and we had to get picked apart by each of the other students, because obviously we knew each other to the depths by then of what our invisible armor was, and the invisible armor that does the work with us, that at the deepest level we identify with as us, and for me, I didn't even see it then. It took this most special thing in my life for me to fuck up, basically, for me to finally see that wound and truly admit to myself that I've never truly committed to myself or to really anything in my entire life, and I wasn't able to see that, and I have been feeling all the things this week, all the things. I've been purging, I've been crying, I've been sitting with my regret, my shame, my softness. My heart is cracked open though, so that's why I'm going to go back to why this is such a paradox, right? Like, if that didn't happen, I don't think I would have got to this depth for me to truly see this darkness within me. And
it probably would have built up and happened anyway, realistically, right? Like
yeah.
it's inevitable. It's inevitable for our shadows to eventually show themselves, and that for you is simply what's happened.
Yeah, and it's amazing, you know. It's scary as fuck, you know, because it's like, well, who am I without that, you know? And it took me ruining the most special thing of my life for me to finally have had that up, you know. So Sunday night, you know, I had a beautiful 3-hour video chat with Rosie, and you know, I was just laying alone. I wrote her a beautiful letter, you know, a week before that, just like outlaying where I'm at and just going, hey, look, you know. And I fell on my sword. And I'm constantly falling on my sword as I go, and it's hard and it's painful, and there's joy in there too, because the joy is truly trusting in what's meant to be. What you can't fuck up. You can't fuck up bad enough if it's truly meant to happen. And so I'm really, that's becoming part of me, of just like, yep, just trusting in that. But then it's the daily actions as well. But you know, you and I, we go deep and constantly. You've held lots of space for me, and you know, you did a beautiful space holding for me yesterday while I was working through some emotion. And what's really been coming up is that the person who I want to be is not who I was. And it's such a beautiful thing to truly know that in each moment we can change, you know. And that's what I'm doing for myself. That's what I'm doing for love, you know. And it's been the most unbearable time, and I'm still in it. It's daily. It's like, oh, like I feel it, you know. But it's drawing me to become the man, so who I want to be. You know, the program that I've finally seen that's come through was when I growing up as a kid. You know, my parents didn't have that very good of a marriage, and there's been a part of me that's always wanted to get married, you know. So there was joy in their marriage as well. So there's a part of me that saw that. So there's part of me that's always fantasized about my wedding, and during, you know, the previous relationship with Rosie, you know, like there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I'm going to marry this woman, you know. And she even said it to me a couple of times, but even when she said it to me, I just totally like disregarded. There were two parts. There was the deep part that wanted, but then there was the part that got taught by my parents' marriage of, why would you ever want to get married? Because of this is what it's like. That's what was taught to me in the early times.
Yeah, for sure. You've seen the pain in it, and that would have made you potentially shy away from it when the option was there. It probably pushed you deeper away, you know. It would have created reasons for you to either consciously or subconsciously make it not work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I allowed that to infect me. And then what I've done is there's a program that I developed for safety. You know, the ego created this program of just going to the next thing. You know, I moved out of home when I was 15. And I just got out of there, you know. My parents got divorced at 14 when I was 14, and that was just, you know, a tumultuous time for me. And so what I created for safety, and even in my younger years, was just constantly living in a created future that doesn't exist, you know, so I can be there and not here in the present, right? Because the present was unsafe for me. And so what I dragged through, and what I have just been slaying, and it is the most painful thing, is what I dragged through was this late teenage, early 20-year-old program of, I moved out of home when I was 15, I left the country when I was 17, I moved away, you know, and then I just kept hopping around the world, you know, right up until I moved back to New Zealand when I was like 30, so it was 5 years ago.
Well, you said it showed up in a previous relationship that you were in as well, right? Where you started to make plans for yourself for the future.
Yeah, so probably my very first real partner, so I would have been about 22 or something like that. We were together for probably a year and a half or whatever, and, you know, it was a proper relationship, and I do remember like going this week, you know, I've constantly gone in and I remember just sitting at this restaurant with her. Her name was Kat. I remember just going, oh yeah, yep, so, you know, I'm going to go and move to this country, or I'm going to go move to this city, and I'm going to do this and that. And I just remember her just like crying, like we were like a year in, and her just like breaking down and crying and going, well, how am I not included? You know, and that's exactly what I did here, and I'm 35, you know, so I've dragged this teenager, this boy through to now, you know. There's a lot of aspects of my mother-father wounds I've worked on, you know, of building this healthy masculine man that I'm here, but that was such a boy program that I dragged over that was just still in me, and I just didn't see it. I didn't see it, and it again, I allowed that to you know, take me over, allowed it to infect me, and then it ultimately just kind of ruined that part, you know. But again, you know, I go back to what I was saying before. It's the paradox of would I have gotten there? And even as powerful, as deep as Rosie is, and we held each other, I don't think I could have got to this depth right now without truly ruining the most special thing. And so just sitting with that, it's a topsy fucking turvy thing, man, to go through, but that's the true work, right? You know, and this ultimately happens to be, there's no plant medicines in this, you know, there's some breath works. I mean, so Monday when I woke up, I was just doing my normal practices, and I was just doing my normal breath, and just boom, and I just flooded, I just wailed, I just cried, I grieved joy, I grieved everything. It wasn't actually sadness, it was just this deep emotion, and then went through that for about half an hour at least, and then I had it up, and then boom, just again moved through, and then I went to work that day and went through it, and I came home, and as soon as I came home, I just stripped off, went outside, had it up, and boom, and then I'm just purging, you know, just on my hands and knees, and then I could feel like my stomach, this thing just popped out, like physically popped out. I could feel it like right here, and I was just there, and I was just in it, and I was just like, I need to slay this. I need to go in, you know. And so I came inside, and your beautiful partner Van, you know, she was here because you were away. We'll touch on that after where you were, but she's not even a breathwork facilitator, but she's done enough with us.
Done enough. She's seen it. She knows. She's got the energy. She'd make a good rebirther.
Yeah.
She can be harsh and cruel.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful at the same time.
Absolutely. And so I can't even really speak, and just crying, and I just said, Van, I need your help. I just need you to hold me in, and I need to cold water rebirth myself. And so I filled up the bath here, and all this true deep wound is just finally here, and I see it, and it's like a black snake that was sitting there, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm just crying, and I'm just really feeling it, but I'm feeling cracked open as well, like truly cracked open. I'm really soft, and I'm just this mess of this being, and so yeah, I just stripped down naked, jumped in the cold water, and just cold water rebirth myself, you know. And I just said to Van, I just said, hey look, she's like, what do? I just said, I just need you to keep me in there. I'm grabbing my sword, and I'm going down to the whale's mouth, and I'm facing this, and I'm getting it. I got a good chunk of it, you know, but it's still there, but I see it now, you know, and it's now in my daily actions of rebuilding, firstly, that trust with myself. It's building that commitment with myself, and then it's ultimately rebuilding that commitment and that trust with Rosie. It's building that commitment and trust with everything in my life, you know. And it's hugely fucking hard, you know. And so there's ultimately still a huge mother wound that's still there as well, you know. I don't speak to my mother, you know. I've done lots of mother work, but you know, she's just so wounded, and I've just got to keep her there, but I've got to go and face that as well, so which is what I will do. Got some wise words from your beautiful partner there just before the podcast actually as well, so you know, just in it, brother, and you know, feeling very soft, feeling very everything, feeling very everything, and it's just, I'm at the bottom, you know, I'm at the bottom of this thing, you know, and everything around me is the product of that, you know.
Well, I mean, internally there's discomfort and a stripping away and a loss, and realistically it's been happening externally as well, right?
Yeah.
Like other aspects of your life have just been slowly falling apart for you to get to this point where you're literally just broken.
Yeah.
Where you're just a shell of the boy you were.
Yeah.
Seeing and bringing awareness to that, and then now allowing yourself to, forcing yourself to show up as a man, forcing yourself to fully commit, because commitment is, it's forever going to be one of the hardest challenges, to fully commit to something, someone, for not just an interim, not for personal gain, but just because you know that that's the right thing to do, or that's the thing that's meant for you. Yes, we can let go of things. Yes, it's okay to change our minds, but to be fully committed to someone, that's when we actually allow ourselves to be fully vulnerable, you know, because we allow ourselves to stand there naked in front of someone and to allow them to see the depths of who you truly are.
Yeah, very much so, brother. Well said. And you know, I went and saw Jordan Peterson on Saturday Live as well, and you know, that little boy part of me that I've just been killing every day is you know, the masculine of me stamping up is like, yeah, it's so clear to me what I want now, you know, like I want that divine union, I want that divine partnership, I want that marriage, I want that essence of manhood, right, to put yourself first, but have someone and other things of greater value that you hold higher than yourself, you know. And it's been a beautiful revelation, and it's been a beautiful opening, and it's been really, it's making me emotional now. It's been really, it's just been really tough, you know, just feeling that, but excited at the same time, you know, because it's this clearing of, I see it, and it's kind of what's felt like this week has been like a true initiation, you know. It's like, it's the last part, because, you know, we've done a lot of work, you know, and it's kind of like the last vestige thing that has come through of this little boy, you know, of just like wanted to dance around the world. Fuck, I want to dance around the world, but I want to do it with someone, you know, and I want to, you know, and so it's coming so clear, and it's just step by step, right? Like you told me yesterday, you know, when you were truly holding that deep space for me, it's, you know, we can constantly flow in it, or we can just take the steps a little bit each day just to take out, and it's the mundane. It's the, you know, setting up a podcast studio for something we want. It's setting up their course. It's going to the bloody gym every day. You know, it's waking up at a time every day, you know, and it's holding yourself to the highest standard that you fucking want. And it's fucking painful, and it's terrifying and beautiful all at the same time. And this is, to me, that's the true essence of masculinity, right? You know, I feel the softest I've ever been in my life, you know. And
this is the softest I've ever seen you, you know, and I've seen you in the depths of many things, and to come home and to see you and feel you in that softness, even with me being so open after the experiences I've had, it's actually been refreshing. It's been refreshing to see you allow yourself to be fully vulnerable, because there was even in our relationship, there's always been a piece you've been, I suppose, hiding away from, and it has been that commitment, like fully commitment to a friendship, fully committed to a business, you know, fully committed to yourself, and to I suppose personally, like there's been cycles of hearing you commit to things, but then not fully following through with it. So personally for me, it's like, okay, cool, is this just another plan? Is this just another idea? Is this just, another thing that you're stepping into, or is this actually commitment?
Yeah, yeah, and that's yet to be seen, brother.
Yeah, yet to be seen, and that's only time will tell, realistically.
Yeah.
You know, and it's easy to fall back into those old habit patterns of the past because it's such an identity that you had, right? Like the big dreamer, you know, always focusing on the next big thing, always thinking, how big can we make things? You know.
Yeah, and that's always going to be in me.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and that's what I love about myself as well.
For sure.
You know, but it's adhering to the word. It's adhering to your own standards, right? But for my whole life, I haven't been able to see this thing, and now I can see it. You know, and so it's again that building of the trust of myself for myself first, and then for the others around me.
Yep.
And I think I've made a pretty good start so far.
Yeah, for sure. You can. Well, there's a different energy around it this time. Noticing, being from an observer and seeing the pattern. It feels different. It definitely feels different.
It feels very different, brother.
Sure.
It feels actualized. You know, and it's just I don't want to be there again. You know, like it's like, why would I ever allow myself to go back to that? You know, hey, look, nothing's linear, right? So there'll be times where it'll shoot back, but then this is where, you know, you have beautiful people around you to go, hey, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yo.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, because it's been a lifelong identity. It's deeper than a habit, and so it's not, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And for me personally, it ties ultimately into the journey that I've been on over the last week as well, because holding someone to accountability, like that's true leadership. Like me being open and honest, and when you say you're going to do something, making sure you actually do it, like that's really true leadership.
Yeah.
That's true leadership.
Yeah, it is. It's being your own leader. Being your own leader, right? It's doing the work when no one else is around, for nothing but for you. You know, so it feels different, brother. I feel very soft. I feel very cracked open. My heart is fucking leaping out of my chest every single moment, and it's all very new and it's all very exciting, but it's all very scary.
Yeah.
It's all very scary, brother. And you know, and it's, yeah, who knows where this goes, because for the first time I'm truly in the present. You know, I'm like, here I am, create my life here. You know, this is where it's at, because everything else is just a self-created fallacy to keep what I'm doing here at arm's length, because it was a safety mechanism to keep me safe from the life that got, you know, the programs that got pushed onto me. You know, and so I see it, and I'm ready to fight. You know, the wolf in me is there. You know, in every aspect. You know. Brother, I'm writing poetry, you know, like these things it's just juicing out of me. It's creativeness. I'm flowing with my words. I'm flowing with my actions, you know, and it's just one step at a time, you know. So it doesn't get much more real and raw than this, you know. My goodness, it's just it's powerful. God, it feels good to have good cries. I'll tell you that, you know. It's it just feels good, and again, you know, could I have gotten here without doing that? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. You would have continually hid from it until you really had that opportunity, or till it faced you again, right? And then realistically, I mean, it just comes down to you making a choice, and you actually accepting that that's where you're at, accepting that this is what you did, accepting that these are the mistakes that you've made. You know, and owning it, truly owning it. You know, being honest to yourself, being honest to others, and being like, fuck, I fucked up. This is what I've done. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not about waiting for the other person to forgive you, because that in itself can be a shadow, right? It's actually just you doing this and owning up to what you've done, merely just because it's going to make you a better person in the long run. It's going to make you more whole. It's going to make you more full. It's going to allow you to allow yourself to feel the depths of love, pain, joy, pleasure, all of the emotions.
Yeah, and that's right where I'm at right now. right where I'm at right now. You know, there's even, you know, we had lunch the other day, and there's even just been, is it like, am I done with my name? You know, am I done with my clothes? You know, it's like I'm truly down right here, and I can now truly choose ultimately how the fuck I want to be, who I want to be.
Well, and that's the real work.
Yeah.
That's the integration.
Yeah.
You know, we have these powerful experiences, but then if we never do anything with them, then we're never willing to change, right?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest work. Like the realization and bringing awareness to something is always going to be the first step, because you can never change anything if you're not aware of it. But now this is the integration, this is the real work, you know. What are you going to do? What's the actions you're going to take from here that are ultimately going to get you to where you want to be?
Yep. And oh brother, there was a deep victim there too.
Oh yeah.
Deep victim, man. It was God, that was, you know, I've never classed myself as a victim, but that was like, bro, victim.
Oh, 100%.
And God, I never want to go back there again, you know. And it's just laying on my sword every single moment right now, you know. And it's, I don't know when it will stop, but it will at some point. And it's the one foot in front of the other, and it's the feeling of love of everything, you know. And as Ram Dass says, right, he goes, you know, tell the truth and love everything, you know.
Love everything and tell the truth.
Yeah, you know. And so, I mean, even on a platform here, you know, like this is just the ultimate raw, real truth, you know. And there's no hiding anymore, you know. There's no real hiding, brother. I even had, you know, I was on the deep of it last week. Man, I was almost like getting that thing. I was going to shave my beard off, bro. You know, I was like, all right, do it.
I'm glad you do.
No.
I don't want to see what your chin looks like. I don't know what your chin looks like.
It would have been very reactionary, you know. So I did it, but you know, I do enjoy my beard, and but that's where it's at, brother, and it's raw and it's real and it hurts and it's painful and beautiful all at the same time. So let's touch on where you were actually whilst I was going, while I'm still in the thick of it, but ultimately the week, last week, you know, let's hear where you're at.
So I had the opportunity to go sit for 3 days with a shaman. His name's Don Gino.
Maestro Don Gino. Viva
Don Gino. For three powerful days at an Ayahuasca retreat. First time I've done ayahuasca a few times now, and this was my first time doing it back to back, and also sitting with a shaman. So the first time I did ayahuasca was in Peru. That was with some powerful servers, an American couple, and they just showed me the mother, and she just showed me the depths of myself. The next couple of times we're here in New Zealand with two powerful servers that we know and hold very dear to our heart, and both very, very powerful experiences. And this time was different. This time was straight to the point. This time was challenging, but ultimately it was all just about tightening the bolts, because for me personally, I feel like I'm in the best place in my life. Have the most beautiful partner. Financially, I'm doing the best I ever have. I get to grow this beautiful business alongside you. I get to coach amazing clients from all over the world. Like, this is realistically where this is a dream. This is a dream. This is exactly where I want to be. And so going into that experience, there was no huge intentions. There was no nothing I felt like I needed to fix, or no traumas that I needed to overcome, because there's been lots of work that I have done. But the mother still finds a way. She still finds a way. You're never really done. You're never really done, and she's always going to show you the depths of yourself. And that was exactly what she did. So the first night, the first experience, I'm just going to grab my notes, because all the evenings sort of, they always mold together. And I have just written down just some of the key takeaways and even just like a theme for what each night was. Beautiful. So day one's titled Shying Away and Being Shown the Light.
Oh, look at you, you're tapping around. Look at your body. It's shifted a bit.
I know, there's nerves still.
What's this?
There's nerves still. So first experience was about shying away and being shown the light. So we sat down, we had the first cup, we did the Ikaros, the experience was opened beautifully by Don Gino. And the man just has a reverence, he has a depth to him, like he's truly just in his masculine, and he's so honest, and he always goes back to this one word, reciprocity. Every time he says that, it just resonates.
Well, I mean, what comes with him is years of lineage.
Yes.
Years of lineage. I mean, it's you know, his father was a server, his father's father was a server, you know. So if everyone listening there, I've sat with Maestro Don Gino a couple of years ago when he was over in New Zealand last time, and so you know, I've felt and witnessed the power. It was one of my most incredible ayahuasca journeys I've ever sat, was 3 in a row. So yeah, these maestros, when it's their lineage, you can't explain it.
No. There's a depth to it. There's a difference to it. And so it was beautiful. And to even just go down there personally by myself was not like a big step, but it felt like the right step at the time. Like, because we were meant to be going down together, things happen in life, and you couldn't end up coming. And for me personally, it was actually like, okay, awesome. I actually get to go on this journey for myself and by myself. I get to show up for myself and by myself in my own time. And for me, in connecting with all the beautiful people that were already there, the family that's now been created, and the connections are oh so deep, oh so deep. You truly know someone when you've sat with them in there.
Without even words.
Without even words.
That's it.
Without even words.
Yeah.
You know, there's an energy to it. And so the first night was being about showing the light and shining away. So we sat down with the mother, we had the first cup, I was just sitting there, and it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. The first night she showed me every single emotion. She showed me bliss, she showed me joy, she showed me pain, she showed me love, she showed me pleasure, and all of it was just fully felt. All of it was fully felt. There was colours, there was lights, there was everything realistically, and I was just sitting in bliss for an extended period of time, for over half of the ceremony. Then she showed me a doorway. And it was just sitting right in front of me, and it's like someone was talking to you, guiding you through the experience. And I shied away. I shied away. She showed me an option to see the pain and the hurt and one of the biggest wounds, she calls it. She said, "This is your biggest wound." And I said, "Mother, tonight, I don't think we're going to go there. We've got 2 other nights, and I don't think tonight's going to be the night." And so she said, "Okay." And it just went back to the bliss. I literally sat there for 20 minutes just feeling orgasmic pleasure.
So it's called a joygasm.
A joygasm.
They are so beautiful. I've had many of those in many of my sits.
Yeah.
And you just, it's true. It's like you know, a light, you know, that takes a 240 watt bulb, but yet you put in a 240,000 watt bulb, and it's like boom, you know, and it's just that true joygasm. True,
from the tips of my toes to the ends of my fingers to the tips of my hair, every single part of my body was just vibrating, vibrantly. And it was beautiful, and I was just sitting in that, sitting up nice and straight, just holding reverence to it, just allowing my body to move and flow however it wanted to flow. Sitting there, having the second cup, having the third cup, getting served rapé, and it was just sitting in pure bliss. And it was actually the big challenge for me was actually just accepting that, accepting bliss, accepting joy, accepting that actually my life is in such a beautiful place. I have so many things to be grateful for. I have so many things that I honor in my life, and just finding joy in the mundane. Like for me, life has just been going so perfectly, and I really wouldn't change anything. It's just all of these different steps, and that really is it can be a challenging thing to accept, that you actually are worthy of everything in your life going perfectly.
Yeah, very much so, because we create it, right? We create it, and then it's there, and then it's like, oh, what do I do now? You know, it's the
Well, when's it going to end, right?
Yeah,
when's
yeah,
it gonna end?
yeah.
And that always used to, this has probably been one of the biggest shadow aspects of the self. I always like to be a fighter. I always like to rise up. I always like to come from the ashes. And this is something that Van actually always seen in me. Every time something in my life was going really, really well, I would purposely burn it to the ground.
Well, I know that feeling.
100%. I'd purposely burn it to the ground because I was actually more addicted to the burn than I was to the rise. Because the burn is the ultimate control. You know, when you fuck your life up, that is you actually in the ultimate control. And so not doing that for the past 6 months has been beautiful, just allowing life to flow, and then actually just sitting with that and accepting that that gift from the mother was beautiful. Beautiful. So the ceremony ended, I went to sleep and woke up the next day. And yeah, we just went into thing. The next day we had a kambo ceremony. This is my first time sitting with and doing kambo, and very much the same. That was reasonably easy for me, watching other people go through their struggles, going through their shit, purging, the bile coming up, the sweats. And for me personally, it was just a warm, fuzzy feeling throughout my body. Drinking water, having a few purges here and there, but it wasn't really challenging. And then we moved into the second night, and Don Gino always says the first night's always lighter. It's just a way for him to understand who we are, make sure there's that people don't get too caught up in all the drama of what's going on and disrupt other people's experiences. And the second night, he says, is always a little deeper. So we got a bigger serve, there was bigger cups. I had the first sip, and I just, as soon as I sat down, there was no pause, there was no break, there was no 15 minutes waiting for the medicine to kick in. It was literally, I sat down, I crossed my legs, I closed my eyes. The room was pitch black, and this black mask, just shot up to my face and was just staring at me. It was moving around, its eyes were just fixed on my gaze. There was lines that defined its face. There was no pupils. Everything was just a black. And then it slowly started to merge into like a human form. And it was just sitting there watching me. And I just sat up and I said, well, Mother, this is the time we fight the demons. This is the time we go through that door. She didn't really give me an option this time. She just showed it straight to me. And what this was actually the shadow of power. The relationship that I've had with power, and not actually being able to accept my own power, not being able to accept my own gifts, not being able to accept who I am, and backing down in moments of confrontation, backing down when there's been moments where I could have risen up, I could have said something, and chose not to, because it's easier to say nothing than it is to cause confrontation. And so this figure just sat in front of me. It was just playing with me. It was toying with me. It was dancing around the room. Even though I had my eyes closed, I could literally see every single other person in the room, and it was just hiding behind people, laughing. And what I tried to do is internally, I tried to raise my energy up. I just felt myself grow bigger. Every time I grew bigger, it grew bigger as well. Every time I grew bigger, it grew bigger as well. Every time I tried to intimidate it, it would intimidate me more. And every time I grew bigger, it would find these little kinks. It would just throw insults at me that would just bomb, like hit, just finding weaknesses in my own internal armor. And I told it, I said, get out. And I said it in this real crackly voice, like a weak...
In your bitch voice.
In a bitch, meek little voice. And I said, get out. And he was just like, no. And I was like, fuck. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then Don Gino told us a story, actually, literally just before the ceremony, about the time that he fought his biggest demon. And he said it was as big as a mountain. And he said to break it down, all he simply did was use his voice. All he simply did was use his voice. And so I sat there. I didn't raise myself up. I didn't raise my energy up. I just sat with it. I looked it directly in the eyes and I said, get the fuck out of my house. You aren't welcome here, and I never invited you. And it said,
say that again, brother.
I said, get the fuck out of my house. I never invited you, and you're not welcome here.
Oof.
And very simply, it said, okay, and walked out.
Well, the biggest demon we will face in those realms is ourselves.
Oh, yes, very much so.
That's it. You know, that's facing ourselves. We are the biggest demon, right?
100%.
But yet we choose to hold on to it, or we choose to let it go.
Yeah, very much so.
You told it to fuck off.
Yeah, and that the lesson in it and what dropped in afterwards was the power of the voice. You know, the power of saying and voicing what you want, the power of voicing what you have to say in confrontation, and holding yourself to that higher standard when it comes to what you want in life and what the other people want in life around you. And it does represent a lot, because even though I know my inner strength, even though I know my inner power, there is moments when I choose not to speak because I choose not for there to be confrontation.
Yep.
And yeah, it was beautiful. And even just coming back from that, and it's like you have these profound experiences, you don't really know if anything shift until you're actually put in situations where you have to use your voice, and where you have to speak up, and where you have to say what you want. And it's been beautiful.
And knowing you, brother, like when you don't, you get very resentful very quickly.
100%.
And you turn into a fucking shitty human.
Oh, very much
very
so.
quickly. And it's just like, I can tell when you haven't stood up for yourself in something, right? You just get very tensious.
It's like it becomes spiteful.
Yeah, very quickly, you know, because you know what you've done.
Oh, for sure. And essentially, I'm just creating my own misery. Misery. So that is what the first thing she showed me. And so to integrate that is I mean, like anything in life, it's going to come with its challenges. But I'm here to rise to the occasion. I'm here to voice what I want when I want it, even if that causes conflict in other people. And so it was a beautiful gift, a beautiful moment. And that was just the first cup. It was just the first cup. The second cup, we sat down, we drank, and Don Gino always has this sort of mantra that he says, and it slips my mind.
Drink your water.
Yeah.
Go inside. Do your work.
That's it.
Surrender.
The mother has something to tell you.
The mother has something to tell you. Yeah.
And so he sat down, had the second cup, had it up, sat down, and I was like, well, I mean, I've already slayed the big demons, right? What else can come up? What else can come up? And I sat there, I was sitting up nice and straight. He said this, and the mother just goes to me, you're afraid to go insane. And I instantly just crumbled. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, whatever. If this is where you want to take me, this is where I'm going to allow you to take me. So I allowed her to drive me into psychosis. I allowed her to literally drive me insane.
So I think let's give the listeners a bit of a backstory on why there's a bit of afraid of like psychosis, right? You found yourself in a few different situations where there has been people in the depths, me included, you know, and you just actually knowing what to do but not doing it. You know, you actually just not surrendering and just being scared of it.
Yeah, 100%. So it ties back to being scared of your own power as well. And yeah, so when I was 22 years old, I had a really bad trip on acid where literally for 5 days all I could hear was people saying my voice, and it literally drove me into psychosis for that amount of time afterwards. I was really afraid to leave the house because I thought I had done something. And there was just all these different stories and things like that. And inevitably, it was the thing that sort of saved my life because it guided me onto the path to spirituality. It supported me in boxing and finding that and finding all these different tools to essentially heal myself from these moments.
Well, it's you using the power of shame.
Yeah, for sure. Using the power of shame to guide me. And then there's been other moments. I've had friends that have had psychotic slips. There's been other moments throughout this year where we've been on plant medicines, when me and Mike were deep in the acid, and there was just this huge energy play and this huge driving someone else to a point of death.
Well, let's call it what it was. You know, you and I, you know, we went out that night and you know, came home and you and I just slip into just, you know, deep conversations, which turns into ultimate shadow work. We hold ourselves at reverence, and for whatever reason, we had some acid, and then I was going into some really deep stuff with me, and then we went and sat down and had it up. I went to serve you at up, and you said no, you don't get to serve me at up now until you work on your stuff. And so I had a double dose, and it just put me in deep. Like it just. It really took me to the brink of death, like actual death. I'm purging all over myself, and and I mean this is going on for 4 or 5 hours, and just lying on the floor, and and you held me in it. I was just
for the first few hours, I just sat there and watched.
Yep.
And just said, this is your choice.
Yeah.
This is your choice.
Yeah.
This is your choice.
Ultimately, I chose life. Which is a beautiful thing. I mean that would be scary for some people to hear that. Go, oh my God, what are they doing? But it was profound, and it was amazing.
For sure.
And it got to a point, where finally I started to work through it, and I was choosing life. I was picking myself up and falling back into it, coming back into it until
and so for me, psychosis is actually being consumed by the darkness, and the fear of being consumed by the darkness, because there's been other times where we had a mushroom ceremony here. Van started to lose herself a little bit. I sat there, I was just filling her with love, just radiating love. But as I was doing so, I felt an energy just overtake me and just drop the whole room into this really, really dark place.
Yeah.
And so every time there's been a moment to support other people in a depth, inevitably a shadow aspect of myself has actually driven them deeper into the darkness.
Yeah.
And it was an intimidating thing. It can be an intimidating thing. And then we had another friend come over, and we had some DMT, and he started to loop, and I knew that I had to help him, and I knew exactly how.
Well, I was out helping him. I was out helping him, and I was moving him through some stuff, and then I was like, cool, I'm gonna get Ryan. Like you and I work very well together. To push it, and I was like, let's give him a rebirth. Like let's rebirth him through this. And you just crumbled. Like you did, and then I had to hold space for you. While you were moving through it, which was amazing as well. But there was and it was I've seen that in you a couple of times. And so obviously the mother brought you to that psychosis in yourself. Because ultimately, what are we afraid of? We're afraid of what's within ourselves.
100%, and it ultimately tied back to the power as well. Facing that deeper shadow within myself. Previously in the evening was that. I mean, the deeper shadow of myself is fear of my own power, fear of my own ability.
Well, I think most people is that.
Oh, 100%, definitely. Because we all have this depth, this power within us. And for me, like supporting people in healing, like that is my true power.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. And to sit with that, there's a lot of responsibility there, because you can literally hold people on the edge.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done the work and faced your demons and faced your own shadow and accepted even the darkness within ourselves and made an ally with it, then realistically you can allow it to consume you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, because I hadn't accepted that darkness and power, in those moments it ultimately consumed me.
Yeah.
So essentially I allowed the darkness to consume me. And it took me to some very, very dark places. All the different stories, all the different times that I had considered suicide had popped into my mind. All the moments that we actually just spoke about all played through, and the way in which it played out, and the thoughts that I was having and why I was having them. And it got to a point where it was just brutally overwhelming. I just wanted to scream. I wanted to get up. I wanted it to stop, and I used my voice. I said, "Mother, let's get this fucking out of me." And as soon as I said that, I just felt my stomach just tighten. And I just felt this dark, heavy energy just moving up through my body. It literally felt like razor blades coming up through my esophagus. And I could feel it. I could feel it moving into my throat. I could feel it moving up. And it was, as I vomited, it was just this thick, black paste. And it just hit the bucket with a thud. And then everything just stopped. Everything went quiet. And then the mother goes, "See, you didn't go insane."
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, brother. It's so powerful and healing, right? When you truly just surrender into the self, and you go into these realms with these beautiful medicines. You know, it's a scary place, but ultimately on the other side is bliss.
Oh, very much so. And I like there's an internal difference within me right now, and I can feel it.
I feel that in you too, right?
And it's been beautiful actually, like coming back and holding you in reverence and holding you in space, because literally all the things that you have been communicating about actually came up throughout the ceremony as well, you know. So even the idea of commitment, that actually came up when I was sitting on the second night, and actually I asked myself the question, is Mike actually as committed as I am to everything that we're doing? And ultimately the answer at that time was no. And then for me to come back, because literally I was going to have the conversation with you, like, brother, like, are you actually fucking committed to this? Are you actually all in it? Like, do you see the long-term vision of this going for 12, 20, fucking 40 years, potentially for the rest of our lives? But ultimately I didn't need to, because the mother was already working in you.
It's such an amazing thing when you have true deep connections with people, and just how that played off, right? You know, how things just play off, and it's just accepting the beauty of the universe, right? Of God, of as all, you know, and you know, the work was being done, you know.
The beauty of the collective consciousness, right?
Oh yeah.
The beauty of the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
So that was deep, man. So that was deep, and every night we're given an option to drink 3 cups, and after that experience, I was like, I'm done for the evening. That was deep. Two huge lessons here. So I chose not to, and just.
Well, you couldn't get up and actually have it.
Didn't want to. The ego was like, but what happens when you get home? Mike's going to ask you if you had 3 cups every single night.
It's so interesting, Like when there's like another cup being filled, and it's just like, you know, there's this dance of like, oh, do I go in, or yep, you're here, just go and do it, you know, like it's this dance, you know.
Yeah. So I sat there and I was watching everyone go up, and I actually just asked the mother, I said, should I have another cup tonight? And she ultimately said, no, you've had your lessons for tonight. You can rest. You've done the work.
Relax, have it up,
Yeah. I had plenty of updates just to bring me in. It was beautiful. And then it was the next day, one of the ladies there who was holding the retreat was actually doing shamanic breathwork, and it was beautiful because even though there was those lessons of power, and even though there can sometimes be a fear of putting myself out there and embracing my strength, embracing the power, embracing even, you know, the word healer, I had already previously told her on the first day that when she announced that they were doing a shamanic breathwork session there, I was like, man, I'm here to help. If you need support, I'm here to help. So before that, we had some beautiful discussions around breathwork and her journey, and it was absolutely amazing. She was like, I'll be honoured for you to help me hold space, and it was powerful. It was deep, but I could notice a difference even in through the facilitation, because I had let go of those shadows, because I had integrated the darkness. I was actually able to hold other people in a greater depth.
And we're already holding them in the spaces too, bro. So that's powerful. I can't wait to for you and me to run another workshop together.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And that was ultimately, it was really funny, because every night you're given an opportunity to share, to say something, a song, a poem, whatever. And I'm always sitting there like, man, I feel like I should be sharing something, but ultimately that's not really my space to share, because I don't play an instrument, I don't sing, I don't do any of that. And after I did that, supported that workshop, I was like, well, ultimately this is my gift to
that's your sharing.
That is my sharing. That is my service to the community. And so that was like a beautiful lesson to myself. So in the third night when we were sitting with it, I could literally just sit there in reverence and listen to everyone share without there being that ego's need or desire to have to do or say something.
Very much so. Beautiful, bro.
And then day three was sitting in suffering and control.
Oh yeah.
This was a really, really big one. This was an absolute arm wrestle for about 4 hours around selfishness.
Yeah.
Selfishness. So the mother showed me everywhere in my life that I'd been selfish in relationships, in friendships, in business, where essentially there was aspects of manipulation, you could call it, right? Because if, well, that's just what it can be, you know, as human beings, we're constantly manipulating situations for us to get what we want, whether it's subconscious or conscious, in the words we choose, the things we say, and the way in which we show up. And yeah, she she just forced me to sit in selfishness and just showed me all the times and all the moments and all the relationships where I'd ultimately been selfish. And it was painful. It was painful because it was a constant arm wrestle. And I said to her in a moment, I said, okay, let's release selfishness. And I was purging, I was vomiting it up, and it came to just the last moment where I could sort of feel it leaving my body. And I stopped and I said, you know what, I'm actually going to hold on to a piece of selfishness.
Yeah.
Because realistically, selfishness is self-preservation. If I was to give everything of myself to everyone in every moment, then there would never be any space or time for me. You know, I'd be selfless.
Yeah.
And being selfless, you might as well sit.
Be a doormat.
You might as well be a doormat, you know? You
Yeah.
might as well be a doormat because you're not actually allowing yourself to live your life.
Yeah.
You're just doing whatever you want in any moment for every other person. Now, then that went into this ultimate play, because realistically it's like there is no way that you can be ultimately selfless without losing yourself. And I'm not willing to lose myself.
No.
I'm not willing to lose myself or anyone else. So even sharing that at the end, that was what I said. She gave me an option to lose all selfishness, and I chose not to. And even just saying that, I was like, oh man, even that feels selfish. But it was beautiful because afterwards I had some deep conversation with people, and they were like, that's actually really profound, because we're constantly told that all we have to do is constantly show up for other people, but quite often we forget the self.
Yeah. Man, that's epic. It's those 3 days with Maestro Don Gino, they are so profound. I mean, we're going to go over and do the 15-day diet over in Peru, and really, you know, go into that lineage in the jungle and things like that, and imagine, you know, what that's going to be like. But you know, like, proud of you, brother. Proud of you for going and doing that. You know, it's no easy feat. It's the hardest things you'll go and do.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
100%. And it's beautiful. It's powerful. It's like there was moments when on that third night where I literally just was sitting there, and my grandmother, my grandfather, my Orpa, who have all passed away, were just sitting up there in the clouds, and I was just having a beautiful conversation with them, asking them how they are. They were asking me how I am. They ultimately asked me if I was doing everything I could for my parents, and I had to admit to them that I probably wasn't, even though I've supported my parents through a lot. As I've moved up here, as I've been focusing on other things, a lot of that energy and attention had slipped away. So I got the nod from my grandmother, just like, okay, all right. And I was like, all right, I'm sorry, I can do a little better. And they were actually the first people I called after I spoke then, when I got back, and just asking them how they were, and just making that commitment, especially to my father, around, we've never had a really deep and connected relationship because we've always liked other things. And ultimately it's because of the wounds with my father that have been stopping me from truly experiencing and enjoying our relationship together now. So that was a beautiful thing to land on. She also took me on a journey back to when my granddad was in the war, and when he was injured and got shrapnel. I just felt this agonizing pain in my leg as I was sitting, and it just started on my knee, and it started moving through, and I asked her, like, where is this from? And she told me that it's ancestral and it's been passed down because my dad also has a limp on the same side. And I said, okay, well, let's go back and let's heal it. And she took me back on that journey. I was literally my granddad. I had the gun up, I was fucking firing shots, diving into bunkers and everything like that. Ultimately the bomb went off, it exploded. I feel my leg and it's just this pain in the back. I can feel the flesh being ripped open, and I'm literally grabbing on it, and I'm like sitting back just in agony. The people next to me would have been like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I was like rolling all over the ground. I feel myself like get lifted up onto the hospital bed, and I'm just laying there and just feeling the mother just absolutely just tear my leg apart and just rebuild it. And even through that experience, it was really funny actually. So through that experience, I'm literally in this fucking agony. It's just going on. I'm feeling it slowly start to get better. Then the light goes on. John Gino goes, it's time for a third cup. And I stopped instantly, and I was the first person to go up and sit there. And she goes, you selfish little bastard.
Died on the grenade.
Yeah, she goes, you selfish little bastard. And I just laughed. I had the cup, I sat down, and I said, all right, mother, let's get back into it. And she goes, you're cheeky. I'm only going to do it because I like you.
Yeah.
And then I just felt the pain in my leg again. And it was just pulling. She was just pulling. She was stitching it back together. And then it just stopped. All the pain just drifted away, and she brought me back to the present moment.
Beautiful. And you know, you can go on these journeys, you can go on all this deep work, and it's ultimately we're speaking about, you know, it's the integration after, you know, and integration I think can get lost in translation. Integration is just taking action on the lessons and the keys that you take away from whatever aspect, whatever depth of the realms that you're going into, whether it be plant medicine, whether it be just, you know, deep human shadow work, you know, you know, whatever's coming through the emotional, you know, and it's just, you know, it's plucking up the courage to then just go, yeah, I'm going to take action on these things.
Yeah,
I'm going to make the changes. You know?
And then she actually taught me how to heal as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
This was beautiful. So my dad's had prostate cancer. He's ultimately beat it, but as he does more tests, as he starts to get older, I mean, most people will have some form of cancer in their life because all cancer is a mutant cell, right? And because of all the
lifestyle that we lead,
that we lead, most of us are going to
trauma.
Yeah, most of us are going to form that in some time. It's just whether or not we die or it kills us. And so he's still been moving through a lot of fear around that, and that was what we went back to with my grandmother. When he first got it, I had the opportunity when I was first studying naturopathy, I was living at home, and I ultimately taught him how to heal it. I was getting him on all the different herbs, and we were supporting his prostate. We were making sure he wasn't drinking, making sure he's drinking lots of water, doing some exercise, eating healthy, and ultimately within a year, it had dissipated, gone into remission. And she gave me the opportunity to be the one to actually do the surgery on my father to pull out the remnants of what was still there.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful because she was a very good teacher. I would rush, I would try to do things, and she'd just like grab my hands and slow me down. Grab my hands and slow me down. And it was beautiful. You could just feel the incision, feeling yourself opening it up, feeling yourself go in there with ultimate care. And this is really what she taught me, like even when I'm supporting other people and I don't know what to do, because there was a moment I was like, man, I don't know what to do. And she goes, just ask for help, just ask for support. Like divinity, Eros will always be there to guide you. All you actually have to do is ask for help. So I just softened into it. I just asked for her support. She gave me this beautiful guidance. We felt it stitch up. I just held my hands over and just felt this overwhelming radiation of love, just sending it to. Boom, and it just stopped. It was
beautiful. It's such a hard thing to describe to people. You know, just the depth of the realms that we can go into with this conscious experience that we are as a human, you know, and these just show us the doors. You know, it's not honoring the doorway, it's walking through the doorway, you know, and walking into it, you know, shoulders back, head up, and being humbled, you know, and just truly feeling the depths of what you need to be felt, you know, in whatever aspect that you're doing, you know. Finding the key lessons and then taking them away, coming back to our human self, and then taking the action on what we need to do. You know, because ultimately we can slip back into the old self. We can have this beautiful, wondrous experience, have these joygasms, and just go, oh, well, that was it. you know, or not, you know, and so that's where people can fall in these traps of just constantly searching for the thing and using it as an escapism.
100%, and yeah, and then it just really becomes fluff, realistically, right? It just becomes another thing that you're doing. It doesn't actually become work, right? Because that was work, that was challenging. There was some fucking powerful realizations and ultimate truths that I had to face, and was shared with. They were shared to me through the experience, but now it is my choice what I do with that. Right. And this is where the real work begins. This is where the real integration happens, because I can choose to still be meek. I can choose not to say things. When things are confrontational, I can choose to back down from my own inner strength and own inner power and not stand up as a leader. But ultimately, then what's the point?
What is the point then?
What's the point?
You know, might as well just go and eat your cookies and have a beer.
100%.
You know? That's probably more blissful than just still living in something that you know you can be better and then not doing it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? So you know it's really interesting, you know, that you went away for your week, and you know I was supposed to go but I didn't, and I wasn't able to, and you know, but yet I still fell into this deep chasm of depth, you know, and same as you know, it's really cool when you've got that deep, powerful connection with people around you, you know, and you are all doing the same thing. You're all doing the work. You know?
Well, and that's the thing. Like the mother doesn't. She shows you what you already know.
Yeah, what you're unable to see, or what you're not willing to see.
Yeah, or you're not willing to admit to.
Yeah.
You know, because everything that she showed me were already things that I was aware of, but not things that I'd fully integrated or accepted or ultimately acknowledged.
Yeah.
You know, so she just gave me an opportunity to really sit with that and to really feel the emotions and feel the experiences. And I mean, that's the power of it, actually allowing yourself to go to the depths of the self, because for you it didn't take the mother guiding you there. No. You know, even though ultimately she could have been hanging out in the background just because of the relationship that you've had, and knowing the experience that I was going into could have actually allowed a gateway to open in the body of a knowing.
Very much so.
Essentially, you know, because why else would you feel that physical pain in your body manifest, you know? If you hadn't already experienced that and known that it is truly possible, that the body holds on to these experiences, these traumas, and we all have these abilities to move through them, whether it's somatic work, breath work, plant medicines, you know? And
it's having the awareness of when something's being, you know, something's showing itself. It's like, well, fucking look at it. Fucking look at it. Yeah. Don't fucking hide away from it. Feel it. You know, cry about it. You know, let the emotion flow through it. You know, and ultimately grow from it. Integrate it. That's the work. That's the true work. That's the ultimate journey, realistically. Yeah. I mean, we could do a full podcast on integration, you know, like, I mean, for a long time, I remember when I first started down on my journey into the self and all of that a few years ago, you know, for a long time, I didn't even really know what integration meant. You know, you hear people talk about integration. I actually didn't even really know what it meant for the longest time, you know, and it wasn't until, I probably listened to a podcast or something, and it's just like, it's the action you take on from the lessons that you're learning. It's like, that's it. You know, but it's also creating the people around you to hold you to account as well. You know, because we can't do any of this alone. You know, we think we can, but that's just another trauma program that we create ourselves. It's like, you know, self-dependency. The need to do it alone. Yeah, absolutely. You know, there are times that you go and do it alone, but ultimately have the lovers around you. You know, so brother, it's been a big one. I knew it would be. Powerful week, brother. It's been a powerful week, and it's gonna continue on, and you know, the things are making clear for us, and you know, the commitment that I'm following through on, and the actions that I'll be taking daily, and it's the mundane, and it's just the being the present, and it's just honoring what it actually is that I want, and voicing that, and ultimately, you know, refixing the relationship with my own self with trust and commitment, and then ultimately that can hopefully, you know, reignite this beautiful partnership that I had you know, but ultimately it's for me, you know, and you know, and then going and just and then just ultimately just, you know, it all stems from mother-father wounds, you know, ultimately, you know, because it's the first things that have been given to us, you know.
Well, it's our first experience of love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or that's what we're taught what love is.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, like there was I heard a cool thing. I'm not sure where I saw it, but it was psychologists have you know, they announced years ago about the criminal gene in people, mostly young men. You know, it's like they're born with a criminal gene. But the theory now is that it's actually, and through our rebirthing practices, I actually can kind of really understand this a lot more. You know, when you're in the womb, you know, and your mother's in an unsafe environment, how do you think your genetics are being switched on? You're being switched on based off your mum's environment, how she perceives it. If she's in an unsafe environment, well, you're going to be switched on to be coming out fighting, because that's how she has to actually protect herself in the world.
For sure.
So the theory is that over the course of just one generation, for every pregnant woman, if we just house them, if they're in an unsafe situation, we take them out, we just house them and give them support, and we give them love, and we give them an absolutely peaceful, you know, pregnancy, then the genetics that are switched on inside the baby inside their womb won't be those angry genetics. They won't be that fight or flight genetics, you know. And so within one generation, we could actually really shift the tide of, you know, these criminal genes people, you know. And it makes a lot of sense, right? You know, I mean, you all of the genetic stuff now. I mean, that's just really powerful stuff, and our genetics can flick on and off, you know, based on our environment throughout our whole entire life, you know. And so that's why going into the work and doing these things, well, we can actually shift our genetics. You know, the epigenetics of the humans are constantly ever evolving. You know, the cellular structure of our bodies are constantly dying. I mean, we can have a new liver in 5 months' time. You know, we have a new whole body in 7 years' time. You know, because every cell dies and reborns. So, you know, and that's, you know, that's ultimately, as long as we're having these living deaths, being reborn, we're learning, we're growing, we're evolving, we're then sometimes stopping to actually see how far we've come, because we can still get caught up in the constant growth and evolution, and then you never actually stop and go, holy shit, look at that bumpy road I actually came over. I feel like I've got a lot further to go. Well, I do have a lot further to go, but god damn, I'm in this, and I'm doing this a lot better, you know. Like, fuck, man, me, even just 5 years ago, would be in a totally different situation. Would be handling the situation completely different. Even me, like 3 years ago.
You fucking 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, brother. You know,
different person, different energy, different wants, needs, desires, and choosing the way in which you show up. And it will forever be hard, because with every death there is a rebirth. And birth is one of the most traumatic experiences we will ever experience.
What is
we'll ever go through. It is there's a reason we don't remember it, right? Unless we rebirth. People are like, what the fuck are they talking about?
The right word. Keep listening, folks. We'll do a whole podcast on rebirthing breathwork. Don't worry about that.
And ultimately, that's why it's so hard to change, because we have to literally re-experience the most traumatic thing in our life, and that was to ultimately birth. And with every death, with every time we kill an ego aspect of ourselves, there's always going to be that challenge of birth. There's always going to be the cellular memory, remembering what it feels like to be an empty vessel again. And then building ourselves up from that will always be intimidating. It'll always be scary. It'll always be easier to stay the same.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people talk about ego death. I used to talk about ego death all the time. I don't really subscribe to that anymore, because the ego is us. You know, there's no separation between the ego and the self and the higher self. We are all the makeup of this human experience. However, there are programmed deaths within our ego. You know, our ego is ultimately, it does its job very fucking well. You know, it's the hardest worker.
It's ultimately there to keep us safe.
It's there to keep us safe, and it does its job amazingly well. You know, and so the programs that are stuck within our ego, it's the deaths. Those are the deaths. You know, we impart our ego. We can utilize our ego. We tap into it when we need to. You know, tap into our mind when we need to use it. You know, but then there are times we need to go into the body. We need to soften. We need to heal. We need to feel love. What it is to feel love. You know, and recalibration. Yeah, and it's a powerful experience, you know. Like, I've had amazing, you know, love-filled experiences, but you know, in this last year, I've truly felt love, You know, it's
intimidating as fuck.
Oh,
look at what you did. You pushed it away.
I know. The most powerful force in this universe, right?
100% eros.
Yeah, the eros of it. You know, so. Well, brother, that was epic. That was you know, this is our podcast. You know, this is what it is. This is
the journey.
You know, if you're listening, this is literally how me and Ryan sit around talk. Anyways, you know, we've just stuck microphones in front of ourselves. You know, everything we spoke about today, we've already gone through this week with each other. But it's time to, you know, it's just put it out there. You know, and it's growing the fuck up. It's being the masculine energy and the feminine energy all in once. It's feeling the flow of it. And it's allowing others to be a little bit freaked out by what we're saying, but ultimately, if it makes them kind of just think a little bit more about their own lives, well, then fucking job done.
Yes. And as you were just saying that, I was just flooded with so much thanks, so much gratitude for the teachers that we have in our life, for the friends we have in our life. Because ultimately they've opened up the doorway and given us the option to change. They've opened up the doorway and given us the abilities to work on ourselves, whether it's Don Gino through plant medicines, whether it's Pauline and David through rebirthing, whether it's
all of our other server
Reiki
friends,
masters, server friends, like even just friends that hold you to a higher standard. They're all just here to make you more you.
Yeah, and you can either accept the invite or not. It's all your choice.
100%. Never make anyone do anything.
No.
As long as there's willingness, there's always a willingness to change.
Oh, that's stuff. Let's leave it at that. It's a beautiful ending. All right, beautiful people. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll keep tuning in because it's only going to get juicier from here.
All right, thank you, fam.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, brother.